Live from KSAT 12, the 6 o'clock news starts right now.
New at 6, a Bexar County Sheriff's deputy accused of charging cruises to an elderly woman's credit card has resigned. Deputy Eric Reyes resigned March 9th. He's accused of charging two $5,000 cruises to a woman's account and trying to get her to sign over a credit card and her trust to him. The incident report filed in January.
And on top of what you just mentioned, Reyes is also accused of accepting checks from the 72-year-old and trying to get her to name him as her beneficiary. Now, we're told that he had the codes to her garage and would show up at her home in uniform in his Bexar County vehicle. A necklace belonging to that woman was also Affairs and the Public Integrity Unit.
No change that clock twice a year. The government could make daylight saving time permanent across the U.S. That means possible changes for local farmers.
A Pleasanton strawberry grower tells RJ Marquez about the big difference that just an extra hour of sun would make in his business.
The sunshine really helps, and the more sun these berries get, then the sweeter they become.
Celso Garcia's family has been in the strawberry growing business for decades. Last year, his family's batch of strawberries won a major award, so Garcia knows every hour during the day counts.
We'll work as much as we can every day, 7 days a week. Once the strawberry season starts, the harvest starts.
Garcia and other local farmers could soon get more time in the sun if the government makes daylight saving time a permanent thing. This is especially important for local strawberry farmers. Their planting season runs through the colder months when the sun sets earlier.
There have been days we've been here with a flashlight because that's what it needs to be done.
Out here in Pleasanton and Atascosa County, growing strawberries is a way of life for several farmers. So any extra bit of sunlight, whether it's even an hour, can add up and make the biggest difference in the taste of these strawberries. Let's try one out. It's pretty good taste.
We leave them here for another day, and the sunshine will hit it all day long, then they'll be that much sweeter tomorrow morning.
And Garcia says he's personally in favor of keeping daylight saving time year-round, even if it means a later sunrise.
Add it on throughout the whole week, another hour every day, then you get better production.
This local farm and many others could harvest sweeter rewards in the future with more daylight.
It's a full-time job, as you know, that it's just constantly working every day and working as late as you can.
Reporting from Pleasanton, RJ Marquez, KSAT 12 News.
We have learned the names of the officers involved in that deadly shooting of a wanted man on the city's west side 2 days ago. Adam Rule, a 6-year veteran, Gus Valles, a 4-year veteran, and James Quintanilla, who's been on the job for 13 years. Officials say all are on administrative duty. The officers shot and killed 28-year-old Kevin Johnson Monday near Woodlawn Lake at North Elmendorf and Carter. The chief says they opened fire on Johnson after he pulled a gun when they tried to arrest him on an outstanding felony warrant.
Tonight, the Pleasanton ISD athletic director confirming that a former student was killed in a deadly crash in West Texas. Travis Garcia was one of the 9 people killed in that crash last night. He was on the men's golf team at the University of the Southwest in New Mexico. A van carrying the team was traveling back to New Mexico after a tournament in Midland. And according to the National Transportation Safety Board, a Dodge truck was traveling the opposite direction when the driver of that truck veered into the other lane, crashing into the van. The NTSB called this a, quote, high-energy event.
The collision was head-on and offset to the left. Following the crash, a post-crash fire ensued, consuming both vehicles.
The agency announced today that it's sending a 12-person team to investigate that crash. NTSB is saying the investigation could take up to 2 years to finish. The team is expected to hold a conference at that crash site tomorrow.
The San Antonio police are looking for a suspect they say stabbed a man at a homeless camp early this morning. This happening on the city's northeast side on Perrin Beidel near Loop 410 about 2 a.m. Police say the 2 men got into a fight behind a gas station in that area. That's when they say a man dressed in all black slashed the other across the chest with a box cutter, then ran away. The person who was hurt taken to the hospital and is doing okay.
Caught in the act, San Antonio police arresting a man in connection with car burglaries in a northeast neighborhood near I-35 and Rittiman Road. And as Karina Weber reports, police say that the man did not go willingly.
The back of a patrol car is where this man ended up after arriving here on a bicycle. San Antonio police believe he was up to no good in the 4200 block of Chestnut Hill. They caught up with him and a backpack full of items before 5 this morning after getting a call about someone breaking into cars.
It's a very big issue here in and around the city, huge.
Police say this time they made an arrest. A witness told officers that man was rifling through this truck and another vehicle outside a home. As soon as the owner activated his alarm, the suspect took off. But police say the owner caught him and held him until they arrived. Police say that suspect had tried several times to get away, including once when he ran down this drainage ditch, but they managed to catch him and take him down.
When they brought him back to try to avoid him taking off again, they took him down.
He ended up with a cut and bump on his head. After he and the officers were checked out by investigators and paramedics, the suspect was taken to a hospital. Although no one else was hurt, police advise against confronting criminals who may be armed.
Whether it be a knife or gun, and we don't want them to find out the hard way. If at all possible, try to get us the best description as possible and direction to flight.
Police say it's best to put your fingers to work by calling them. Katrina Weber, KSAT 12 News.
The stress of the pandemic, disrespectful students, pressure from lawmakers and parents. Just some of the reasons many Texas educators say they've had enough. There are plenty of teacher vacancies, but school districts are struggling to fill them. Veteran educators say it is sad to see for the children's sake, but understandable. Still, retired teachers with decades of experience say before giving up the profession, those teachers can seek out mentors who can advise and support them. There are also online resources which could be helpful. Another idea, they say, would be including teachers in the hiring of a school principal who will advocate for them and their students.
Even when she knows parents are wrong about different things, then that makes it tough on the rest of the faculty.
To tackle the state's teacher shortage, the Texas Education Agency created a task force. Well, that task force now includes some teachers. There were no teachers on it when it was originally announced by Governor Greg Abbott.
You know, some Broadway shows have really stood the test of time, like Rent. The legendary play premiered in 1996, and in 2022, its cast members say that it's more relatable than ever. After 2 years of pandemic delays, the show is finally returning to the Majestic Theater starting tomorrow. Our Courtney Friedman, by the way, an avid fan, spoke with a cast member with a special connection to San Antonio who says that current issues make that show feel even more powerful.
525,600 minutes. Times 2. It's been 2 years since the pandemic began and since the legendary Broadway show Rent was supposed to grace San Antonio's Majestic Theater.
Definitely extremely rough not being able to perform or anything like that.
Lindy Moe stars in the rock musical, which portrays struggling artists in New York City's East Village during the AIDS crisis, depicting economic strife, stigma surrounding illness, female empowerment, and portrayal of queer relationships, all familiar topics and issues in 2022. The impact now is it's almost like it's a new show.
I think a lot of the cast feels that and the audience feels that.
Moe plays the confident, headstrong character Maureen.
It feels really special because I feel like I learned a lot from Maureen during COVID. I lost somebody that was extremely close to me, and Rent focuses on losing people and getting together with the people you love and celebrating life because we only have a short amount of time.
That's why she's thrilled to be spending her time in San Antonio, where half of her family lives. But that's not the best part.
My grandpa coached the San Antonio Spurs from like 1976, I think, to 1980.
So calling all fans of Doug Moe and the Spurs, calling all theater fanatics, calling all people who have had a rough couple years and need to sing and celebrate life. Grab some tickets and head to the Majestic, because now more than ever, there's no day but today. Courtney Friedman, KSAT 12 News.
Check out traffic right now. This is Loop 410 at Perrin Bidle, but we are looking towards Loop 410 and I-35 where they intersect just past Austin Highway. Well, there's an accident on 35 at 410. That is causing a backup here, you see, in the eastbound lanes of Loop 410. So it is a traffic area you want to stay clear of. It's slow going here even when there's no accidents, but there is an accident right now at 410 and 35 affecting traffic at 410 and Perrin Bidle. New at 6, after more than 10 years, the annual Associated Builders and Contractors National Craft Championship is back in San Antonio. It's an event where nearly 200 electricians, welders, plumbers, carpenters, and other craft apprentices show off their skills in an intense skills competition. Competitors get 6 hours to finish those projects, but as organizers tell photojournalist Robert Samaran, the competition is only the beginning of where their skills can take them.
So this is the National Craft Championship.
We have over 175 of the best in the trades, all competing to be number one.
It allows them to show what they do every day.
We have electricians and plumbers, and they're each competing in that specific industry. We also have some teams working.
I competed in National Craft Championships in 2008 in San Juan, Puerto Rico. It was a great experience. I loved every minute of it.
This is a really great way to feature the industry and to call out the best amongst us.
6 hours to complete a project, and I was able to come away with a gold medal.
It's a really great opportunity for them to kind of see, what potential is.
The circulation of our country, of what we do, it all starts with skilled trade. It's the pride of craftsmanship. I always say construction is the best industry you can work in.
Texas employs more construction workers than any other state in the country, and so we want more workers.
The great benefits to what we do is that it's never too late to start. You can start at 18, you can start at 45, you can start at 50. It doesn't matter. It can be whatever you want it to be. You can come in with almost no knowledge, no skill. You can be trained. You can learn a process, learn a trade that you can be proud of. You can go wherever you want with it.
Great job by photojournalist Robert Samaran out there at that competition.
Oh, big time. Now we have a South City cam right here, Southside City cam, 83 degrees right now, and you just couldn't ask for something prettier, Adam.
Yeah, another comfortable day, pleasant, lack of humidity in the air. And we're going to see more of these days. We made it into the 80s, 83 the official high temperature, and still we've got readings in the 80s. Even 90 degrees along the Rio Grande, Eagle Pass at 90, Cotulla 91 degrees. Officially in San Antonio, we're at 82, but you get to Stinson 87 and Bernie now about 77 degrees. As we go through the evening, quiet and comfortable. Near 70 at 9 o'clock, lower 60s at 11 p.m. But there will be a little increase in the humidity, and that could lead to a few issues for the morning commute. We're going to talk about that and when our next storm chances are back in the picture in just a bit.
Tonight on the Night Beat, so you may have seen a slight decrease in prices at gas pumps, but it's still near that $4 mark. And now one San Antonio artist is doing what he can to help with that. How you can help, or maybe even get your gas paid for tonight. Interesting stuff. Also, exactly 2 years ago today, San Antonio saw large public gatherings banned. The pandemic soon impacted businesses. So are businesses finally getting back on track? We're going to take a look at the flow of tourists this spring break and what our area is seeing. Those stories and a lot more for you tonight on the Night Beat.
Ever since the sudden death of comedian Bob Saget after he hit his head in a fall, the fear of fatal subdural hematoma is becoming more common. Some don't know they're in danger unless you get checked out. But even if you do find a brain bleed, sometimes surgery doesn't work. Ursula Perry shows us a new treatment that is keeping brains safe and people alive.
Horace Mitchell spent a life in education. With a Ph.D. in Black Studies, he went on to teach and run universities, retiring as president of California State University, Bakersfield. But then a fall in his garage threatened to end everything.
I ended up falling backwards, and then I hit my head on the side of the refrigerator.
He was confused and unsteady, sure signs that something was wrong. Doctors diagnosed Mitchell with a subdural hematoma, or a type of brain bleed,
which is blood that accumulates on the surface of the brain.
Neurosurgeon Sumet Valdera says traditionally, surgeons would drill a hole in the skull and drain the fluid. But many times more blood accumulates and a second surgery is needed. But Dr. Valdera is the first to successfully treat a patient using a new system. It's called IRRAflow.
So you make a small window in the bone. You place this catheter into the area where the blood clot was.
For 1 or 2 days after surgery, it continuously irrigates and aspirates the area, draining any excess blood.
It's actually helped us and saved us from having, to put the patient through another surgery.
Dr. Valderra says he's not had any patients, including Mitchell, who needed a second surgery. And after rehab and physical therapy.
And as far as I can tell, I'm doing fine mentally.
A few more things to know. An estimated 6.5 million Americans have an unruptured brain aneurysm. A brain aneurysm erupts or ruptures every 18 minutes here. And if you don't get treated for a brain bleed, it could lead to a stroke and even death. Ursula Perry, KSAT 12 News.
All right, Sky 12 right here. We're going to have a live view here of the Tower of the Americas. A beautiful shot right now with Sky 12, 82 degrees right now. And here's the thing, when you look outside, it looks so pretty and clear, but that may not be the case tomorrow while you're driving to work, right, Adam?
Yeah, we're having a little increase in the humidity tonight, and I do think that's going to lead to some reduced visibilities for the morning commute. A comfortable evening, nothing to worry about tonight. It's just a few hours tomorrow morning. Let's get right to it. Take a look at our future cast for the visibility, and with a little increase in humidity, nothing that you're going to really notice or make you too sweaty tomorrow, but a little increase will lead to some areas of fog. So notice our future cast here, visibilities down to a few miles possibly between about 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. tomorrow. Then it should retreat pretty quickly, dissipate, and it's gone. One thing I want to point out here, speaking of the view and visibility, we have these high clouds streaming overhead. They're coming in from the west. Those are going to set the stage for a beautiful sunset this evening. So have your cameras ready to go. Or do we just say phones these days? I don't know. Just have your phones ready to go? Yeah. I think we've pivoted now, haven't we? Steve's giving me this.
Either or.
Okay. Have them both.
Yeah.
Either or. Ready to go. 82 degrees currently, dew point of 35, and temperatures for the most part in the lower to mid 80s across the state. You look locally, Helotes is 81, Divine 83, Stinson's still 87, but Bulverde at 80 degrees and 80 in Bandera. As we go through the evening, temperatures gradually falling off. Comfortable. We're talking 60s by midnight. Tomorrow morning we'll settle in the lower 50s, and then by the afternoon we make it well into the 80s. So not as much of a gap from the morning temperature to the afternoon tomorrow as what we've been experiencing, but that gap's going to return with our next cold front. I mean, by tomorrow we're talking temperatures well into the 80s, even closer to 90 farther west of San Antonio, including Uvalde, about 90 the high. But notice by Friday, we go from the mid-80s tomorrow, locally, down into the mid-70s for a high temperature on Friday. A little weak cold front hits us Thursday night, and that's going to reset our temperatures a bit, bring us a little closer to average for high temperatures, but more than anything, create that gap again from the cool mornings to the warm afternoons. So you have to have that balance here Friday through the weekend of long sleeves in the morning, shorts and short sleeves are fine by the afternoon. All right, here's the big picture, and I want to talk about the next system that's going to be headed our way. It's not even on this map right now. It's not even over the lower 48. There is a disturbance over the Rocky Mountains. We're talking Utah and Colorado. That's going to pass to the north of us tomorrow. That dip in the flow's not going to affect us. Our next system that we're watching for the potential of storms is over Alaska at the moment. And we're going to be tracking that in the days ahead as it's likely to have a little bit of energy spin off of it and then dig very far south into parts of northern Mexico by Monday. And that would be a more favorable position to help give us the rain and storm making energy that we need to develop some much needed rainfall. So our next real shower and thunderstorm potential isn't until Monday. And here's the key with this. We're watching the trends fluctuate a little bit in the computer models, and they have been trending farther south with this big dip in the flow and that disturbance. The farther south it pushes, the more increased our rain chances are. So check back in with us. We'll keep you updated not only on just that potential, but this is a situation where we could see some severe weather if it pans out. So something to keep an eye on for next Monday. 53 tomorrow morning, foggy, 84 by the afternoon, nothing but sunshine. A south wind at 10 to 20, so a bit of a breeze, but downright windy on Friday. We're talking gusts up to about 40 to 45 miles per hour behind that Thursday night cold front. So very windy on Friday with the dry air in place. Nothing but sunshine basically through the weekend, comfortable temperatures, but cool mornings. And then by Monday, we're watching that for that next chance of showers and storms.
All right, Adam, thank you.
All right, Spurs back in action tonight, and they really need to get back on the winning track here, Larry.
Yeah, they don't have very many games left to go in the regular season to try to get into that play-in tournament tonight. They're going to host the Thunder, and that means Josh Richardson will face his childhood team, and the Incarnate Word and Lady Cardinals are making history as we speak. Coming up. The Spurs will look to snap their two-game skid tonight when they play the Oklahoma City Thunder for the final time this regular season. San Antonio leads the series 2-1. OKC won Game 1 in November, 99-94. And the Spurs took the next two, 118-96 and 114-106. Spurs guard and Oklahoma native Josh Richardson will get to face his childhood team this evening. Josh says he was 8 years old when the Seattle franchise moved to Oklahoma City, becoming the Thunder. And Josh says he became an immediate fan because of players Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden.
You know, it was a fun young team, and so me, all my homies were, huge fans. Being a weirdo, James Harden lived in the neighborhood next to me, so I was like one of those kids who was like driving by, like, yeah, James Harden lives there. So I remember the first couple years they were, they didn't win a lot of games, but you could always see, progression every year. And I think the third year, fourth year they were there, they made the finals. So it was like a lot of optimism.
Four-time NBA champion Manu Ginobili, the Spurs' special advisor to basketball operations, spent some time talking with Zach Collins at Shoot-Around this morning. So what were they discussing?
Manu, he talks about everything. It's not really predictable. He always asks a lot of questions about a lot of things. We were just talking about the tournament and college basketball and guys that were playing really well and what they were going to do in the draft with them and stuff. So that was about it for that one. But we can talk about, he goes to all of our, or not all of them, but we had a event yesterday where we went over to where they're building that video game arena, and he was there. He was just curious and asking questions about that. So he's just he's a very curious dude. So you never know what you're going to talk about, but he's always going to be talking for sure.
Spurs will host the Thunder tonight at 7:30. Now, the team just informed us around 6 that Doug McDermott has a grade 3 ankle sprain and is expected to miss the rest of the regular season. The NCAA men's basketball tournament tipped off yesterday with the first four featuring number 16, Texas A&M Corpus Christi versus number 16, Texas Southern. And Wagner High School alum Jalen Jackson scored the first points of the tournament this year on this drive in the first half. Jackson, who transferred from North Texas to Corpus, played 28 minutes, and he scored 5 points for the Islanders. His head coach, Steve Lutz, graduated from East Central High School. Texas Southern goes on to win, though, 76-67 to end the Islanders season. The Tigers will face number 1 Kansas tomorrow. And the second game yesterday featured Indiana and Wyoming, two 12 seeds looking to advance in the East region. First half, the ball goes to Brendan Wenzel from O'Connor High School, and he goes 3-ball for the Cowboys. He scored 5 points in 37 minutes to go with 4 rebounds and 1 steal. But Indiana, who's in the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2016, takes it by the final of 66-58, and they'll play 5th-seeded St. Mary's tomorrow. The NCAA women's basketball tournament is now underway with the first ever First Four women's matchup featuring Incarnate Word and Howard. The Lady Cardinals held a watch party Sunday night at Broadway 50/50 to learn their opponent, and the team is holding a watch party there right now with that game tipping off at 6 p.m. This is the first NCAA tournament appearance for the Cardinals. Let's check out that score for you. UIW is down 13-11 in the first. The winner of this game will advance to battle the number 1 overall seed, South Carolina, in the first round. Go Incarnate Word.
I like these play-in games. Congratulations, you won. You get to play Kansas.
Exactly.
You get to play South Carolina.
Yeah. Kind of scary.
Yeah. Thanks, Larry.
Now, coming up, we're going to talk about a massive bond package, violence, and other issues in San Antonio, because Mayor Ron Nirenberg is going to join us to talk about all of that stuff next on our KSAT Q&A. Welcome back. There's so much for us to catch up on, from the violence that we've seen in San Antonio to the possibility of a new hotel in our city, also a new bond package that you, the voters, are going to take up in just a few months. Joining us now to talk about everything is San Antonio Mayor Ron Nirenberg.
Mr. Mayor, thank you for joining us. Let's start with that bond package. It's the biggest bond program we have ever seen in San Antonio. Most of it would go to infrastructure, housing, streets, sidewalks, parks. but it's the big price tag that a lot of people seem to be focusing on, $1.2 billion. How do you get people past that price tag?
Well, first of all, it's no new taxes, no tax increase. This is a bond program that's put together by the community. Hundreds of neighbors coming together every 5 years to prioritize the capital improvement projects in our community. And so this is the normal course of action. It's larger than it's ever been before because our city's growing and the needs continue to grow. But 76% of this bond program is in the very, very basics, streets, sidewalks, drainage, parks improvements. Every corner of this city is touched and improved. And so really when we talk about taking care of our neighborhoods, taking care of the quality of life and infrastructure within our community, that's what this program is all about. And it's within our financial capacity. That's why there is no tax increase. And again, these projects over, I think about 180 projects in total are all prioritized by your neighbors to improve your neighborhood.
So now let's talk about, the tension between police and members of the public after officers shot and killed 28-year-old Kevin Johnson on Monday. We're still waiting for that body camera footage to be released so that we know more about possibly what led up to that confrontation. Could you comment on that?
Well, sure. It's a tragic situation, obviously, but the investigation is underway per SAPD protocol, as well as the DA. And so without getting that investigation complete and without the facts known, I'm not going to make any comment on it. It would be purely speculation. But the investigation is underway, and we're going to be waiting for those results.
When it comes to body cam policy, let's take what happened on Monday out of it as much as we can. But when you talk about body cam policy, there is a 60-day window that has been talked about, but there are obviously exceptions to that. Can you talk us through that? And is there any talk of maybe being some sort of shorter time frame? I know the county talked about 10 days to 30 days. And your thoughts on body cam policy when it comes to the San Antonio Police Department?
Well, sure. And it's important to recognize that prior to, I think, last year when that policy was adopted, there was no policy for body cam footage. And this is fairly new technology for police departments across the country. I asked for a body cam footage release policy to be created. So we did that. And the attorneys, as well as SAPD, really did some good due diligence to look at other policies across the country. And 60 days was landed on as a reasonable amount of time to complete an investigation and get the video processed for release to the public. But it's important to recognize a couple of things. Number one, that's public release. And so oftentimes the video is made available to family and next of kin at their request once it is reviewed, obviously, by PD. We want to err on the side of disclosure. And making sure that the expectations for transparency are met. The 60-day standard is a minimum standard. And what we want to do is get that video processed and released as quickly as possible, as reasonably possible, to allow for, again, disclosure, but also to give time for investigation. We don't want to fail to meet our own standard. But we're going to continue to strive to release that footage as quickly as possible whenever there is a critical incident. What we found in some of these communities that have adopted very aggressive policies, some as short as 3 days, many, many times, in fact, oftentimes, they're not even meeting those standards. So what that does is it sets an unrealistic expectation for this footage to be released. And when it's not met, that standard's not met, it just creates more angst in the community that doesn't need to be there. So what we've done is created a reasonable time frame for us to release that footage. But we're also always working to exceed our own minimum standards.
You're comfortable with the 60 days?
Well, so number one, I think it always needs to be continuously reviewed. And I do expect us to have continued dialogue about that 60-day period. But I'm comfortable with the fact that we have set a minimum standard and that our expectation of the department is that they will work diligently to release that footage as quickly and as reasonably as possible.
From the city standpoint, what's the downside to releasing body cam footage earlier?
Well, so the footage needs to be released, and this is, again, the authority for releasing the footage is by statute with SAPD. But with regard to releasing the footage, it's really about getting that video processed and making sure it's released in full context, and that's what the police department does. It also again, by statute, allows for an investigation to be conducted. And that's what, obviously the DA is involved in and concerned about, is to make sure that those obligations are met in the release of the video as well. But again, obviously, we, in all of these cases, want to err on the side of disclosure. That body cam footage is there to protect not only the public and people who are involved in an incident, but also the police department itself.
Right. Transparency, accountability, all of that. So I want to talk about one more thing before we let you go. And maybe that's what you were going to talk about, the hotel.
Council members discussed possibly building a new hotel by the Hemisphere Park. What can you tell us about that?
Sure. Well, that literally took an act of legislature 10 years ago to pave the way for development on that corner. That one of the most important pieces of underutilized property in the city, in that Hemisphere quadrant on Alamo and Market Street. So this project has been underway for nearly 10 years now, and through the pandemic and some delays, we're finally seeing that hotel come to fruition. That's only one very small element of this development, though, which also includes some housing, but it also, most importantly in my mind, includes a civic park and bringing retail and public activities back to this historic corner of San Antonio. So this piece of property, which has really been underutilized and frankly, a place where we want to see more for the last 50 years, is finally going to be brought back to life. It's taken a good 10, 15 years for this to come to fruition, but today was a significant moment where we could see the new plan post-pandemic come back to council and ultimately get started. And as you know, the Civic Park groundbreaking took place just a few weeks ago. And so we're excited to see that finally happen.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how it all fits together, the park and the housing and the hotel and some parking and all kinds of things come together. But we're out of time, so maybe next week we'll talk about that. Mr. Mayor, thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thanks so much, y'all. Have a great evening.
You too. And we'll be right back after that. Welcome back. Now, keep this in mind next time you go to Wyoming. Claiming roadkill there is now legal, but there are rules. Last year, the state passed a law that allows people to pick up dead animals from the roadways. There's actually an app that helps confirm that the animal wasn't killed illegally. And what you do is enter the species and the location where you found it.
I will definitely keep that in mind next time I'm in Wyoming. Don't pick up in Wyoming. Excuse me. Don't pick up the roadkill. There are certain interstates it's not safe to stop and collect roadkill. No one can collect roadkill at night. I mean, you can't take home grizzly bears, mountain goats, bighorn sheep, and some birds. And you have to take that entire carcass with you. So you can't just take the head of the deer and prime cuts of meat. You have to take the whole thing with you.
Everything. Got that, Adam?
When you leave the area.
Oh, duly noted.
Yeah. All right, 6:42 right now, getting a live look here. This is our camera near the airport where you see traffic is flowing kind of smoothly at this hour. Really nice, pretty clear day today, but we've been talking about the morning commute and how that may possibly be an issue for some people, Adam.
Yeah, we could have some areas of fog around at that point, and so that's something to just keep in mind for when you wake up early tomorrow morning, but nothing to worry about this evening. Beautiful out there, 82 degrees by 8 o'clock, 74, 10 p.m., 65. So a comfortable evening, not a bad night. Temperatures eventually settling into the lower 50s by tomorrow morning. But there is a certain allergen I do think is going to be spiking very soon. I'm going to talk about that and our next chance of storms when that comes in just a bit.
All right, something we can't see in the air, but somehow we can always see it on our cars. Greenish, kind of yellow pollen.
Yeah, it's going to be an issue, right?
It is. It's not here yet, in full effect, but I think we need to start getting ready for it. And those of you that suffer from particularly oak allergies, it's that time of year to really get ready for it. It's one of our main weather headlines. Fog toward dawn tomorrow, windy again on Friday, otherwise comfortable, rain chances by early next week. But oak pollen, I do think will soon be increasing. Not necessarily tomorrow, but I do anticipate one of those big spikes in the pollen count, at least within the next week or so, because take a look at this. I was in the neighborhood, and not every tree is like this. All oak trees, they tend to grow their catkins, drop their leaves, then grow their catkins at different times. But several trees stood out to me, and this was one in particular that's already, as you get a closer look, starting to form its catkins, which then release all the pollen, and then they drop those catkins that fall all over the place, and it's almost that time of year. So if you are susceptible to it, with your respiratory system, nose, ears, whatever, time to get ready. And if you tend to cover your outdoor furniture or anything outdoors this time of year, get ready for it. I'd start doing that now. Typically, oak season peaks late March and especially into early April. So right now we're about here on this graph. So it's ramping up and it should start peaking very soon. So something to get ready for. Yeah, it was low today, a count of only 20. But again, just judging by what I see, something to keep in the back of your mind in terms of the seasonal changes around here. All right. Looking at the sky, some nice high thin clouds streaming overhead. That should make for a beautiful sunset. Sunset's about 7:45 p.m. 82 degrees right now, a comfortable evening, a comfortable night, dew point of 35. We're still 91 in Cotulla. Del Rio at 88 degrees along with Eagle Pass. Officially in San Antonio, 82. Stinson at 87. Meanwhile, 77 in the Bernie area. By tomorrow morning, we'll drop down into the lower 50s. So comfortable this evening. Tomorrow morning, not as cool as the previous mornings, lower 50s. And then by the afternoon, we get well into the 80s again, from 82 in Seguin to 90 in Sabinal. South side of San Antonio, about 85. You get to Helotes, about 82 degrees. So we'll call it mid-80s tomorrow, but then a cold front hits, a very weak one, and that's going to drop temperatures down into the mid-70s by Friday. And we're looking at 70s Friday through Sunday. And then on Monday, that's the day we're watching for the potential of some showers and thunderstorms. There's actually a little system that's dropped into the Four Corners region. You see the precipitation throughout Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, even northern Arizona. I mean, it's good. They need the moisture too, right? We know what it's like to be in a drought, and at least somebody's getting some relief. It's not us right now, but that disturbance is going to drop into North Texas tomorrow. Mostly Oklahoma and East Texas will get rain out of it. It's a little too far north for us. The next system that looks more promising for some rainfall around here is going to likely move in on Monday. Right now, it's over Alaska. It's got a lot of real estate to travel over before it gets here, and a lot can change between now and Monday. But right now, indications are that this disturbance, this big dip in the upper level flow, is trending southward, which would put us in a more favorable position for some showers and even thunderstorms in this case. And if everything pans out, we could actually have some strong to severe thunderstorms by next Monday. It's one of those fluid situations that will be changing between now and then. So check back in with us and we'll bring you the latest. 53 in the morning. Fog. Anticipate areas of fog for a few hours around sunrise tomorrow. And then by the afternoon, nothing but sunshine, mid-80s, the south wind at 10 to 20. And then we have that big gap from the morning temperature in the 40s to afternoons well into the 70s starting Friday and lasting through the weekend. You know, when you need the long sleeves in the morning, but shorts by the afternoon, get used to that Friday through the weekend.
All right. And now coming up next, in case you missed it.
Here's today's ICYMI.
New this morning, one person recovering after an argument escalated on the northeast side. This unfolded around 2 this morning on Parambital, not far from Loop 410. That's where police say two men started fighting behind a Valero gas station. One of them cut the other across the chest with a box cutter before taking off. Police are still looking for the suspect. The victim is in the hospital and is doing okay.
We are keeping an eye on the continued fallout this morning following the death of Kevin Johnson. His family, San Antonio Police, and City Hall all want to know more about what led up to the deadly shooting and the tense confrontation with police that followed. Until the body cam footage is released in 60 days and more details are confirmed, Mayor Ron Nirenberg and several city council members are withholding comment. They offered their condolences to Johnson's family, but say they also need to know more about the circumstances.
Firefighters evaluating 2 people for smoke inhalation after a 2-alarm fire at an apartment complex. This one's on Pecan Valley Drive near East South Cross on the city's southeast side. Firefighters say they were able to put out the flames within 15 minutes. 2 dogs were rescued, but firefighters on the scene say 6 units on the second floor of that complex or basically they're going to be unlivable.
An update on a developing and sad story out of West Texas. We now know that one of the 9 people who were killed in a van carrying college golf teams from New Mexico is a Pleasanton High School graduate.
Tab Dumont is the athletic director of Pleasanton ISD. He confirms that Travis Garcia is the student that died in that crash. He was a member of the men's golf team at the University of the Southwest. That's in New Mexico.
So usually around this time, traffic is kind of settled. It's usually not a big deal, but that's not the case right now. We're getting a live look here from TransGuide at 410 and Broadway, where you can see those are the westbound lanes where, you know, there is some traffic issue there because there was a motor vehicle accident. And so you could see that people are just able to travel along one lane there or 2 lanes. There's the westbound lane. So just something to keep in mind if you're headed toward the downtown area.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, still 80 degrees out there at almost 7 o'clock, Adam.
Yeah, it's going to be a comfortable evening, not as significant of a temperature drop as previous nights. I mean, we'll be 53 degrees tomorrow morning, mid-80s by the afternoon after some morning fog. Otherwise, sunny through the weekend, and Monday's the day we're watching for storm potential.
All right, Adam, thank you. And thank you so much for joining us.
See you on the Night Beat at 10.